I'm Tuppence and it's another Froggy Friday. And I want to try an experiment. I've got an idea, but I don't know if it's going to work. So I want to use some of this cling film or food wrap and silver flakes to kind of create a geode frog, although I'm going to call this a chasm frog. What have I got in this? It looks like a little bit of fluff, so I don't know where that came from. Let me hook that out. Yeah, I'm going to use this cling wrap as an inlay in my frog, and hopefully that's going to give me a gap or the chasm. So I'm just going to scrunch this up into a line. And cling film does stick pretty well to silicone, so I'm hoping if I push this down and compress this, I'm going to get this to stick to the bottom of the mould. I did clean out the frog really well, made sure that there wasn't anything in there, and I gave it a wipe out with some alcohol. So it's as clean as it possibly can be. I'm going to keep compressing this and just get that positioned where I want. Now, there's a lot of wrinkles there that the resin might seep into, so I'm going to cover it with another piece of cling film, and then hopefully that will smooth out the surface and prevent the resin from seeping into all of those little cracks and stopping me from getting the cling film out afterwards. So I'm going to push it down all the way around, and then that might give me an added chance of sticking this to the bottom of the frog. That's about as good as I'm going to get that. So I'm going to take these flakes and I'm just going to coat the surface of that now, and hopefully these will stick to the cling film. I'm just going to take chunks, and again, if this doesn't stick in the resin or parts of it do, that's fine, it doesn't really matter. I'm hoping that it's all going to give me some texture. I'm hoping this is going to work in a similar way as to when we do the aquacast and we put all the flakes and the mica down. But obviously I'm going to be using resin. So I'm just going to randomly pop these in. These are really clumpy flakes. I want to make sure that they are really well pushed down. So some of the flakes I'm just sticking to the cling film, and in some areas I'm trying to get it where the cling film changes and becomes the mould, and just stick that over the margin. Hopefully that is going to keep that down so that the resin won't seep underneath as well. And I'm not going to cover it all. Now the problem I'm having is that the cling film is still pretty bouncy, which is why I keep trying to poke it. I don't want it to cut my frog in half and end up with two pieces. But it's looking good. And it is sticking, well, it's pretty much sticking. Alright, so I think that is probably enough. And to be extra cautious, I think I'm going to be putting some UV resin around the edges and trying to seal this down, because I'm intending to use some black resin in there and I really don't want that to seep through. So I'm going to grab some gloves and I'll be back to seal around the edges. Okay, I'm just going to put a layer of UV resin around the edges so that it bridges where the cling film and that foil meets the rest of the mould. I've managed to pick up a loose bit of foil on my bottle, so I'll just put that back. So, and hopefully this will actually hold some of those loose bits of foil down, because they are really clumpy. Okay, I'm going to put that underneath my lamp. Okay, so that's been through the lamp once, and I want to make sure, so I'm going to add some more. And again, I'm going to go around the edge. It is feeling pretty good, but I really don't want any of that foil to sort of float off up into the black. And equally, I really don't want the black to be seeping underneath this. So I'm going to give myself every chance. Hopefully you're not going to notice the clear resin too much anyway, because it'll either be behind this foil or the black will just be behind it. So again, this is going to go under the lamp. I'm going to cure this for a good 5 minutes. I've moved my frog onto my G3 curing machine tray, and I was really careful so that I didn't break the seal. And now I'm just mixing in some black pigment into my craft resin. This frog usually takes 4 ounces of resin, and I've mixed up just over 3.5, because I'm counting on the foil and the cling film in there having taken up some of the room. So I don't think I'm going to need 4 ounces. So I'll just make sure that I get this colour mixed in properly. Okay, that is looking pretty good. Now I have already warmed up both parts of my resin before I mixed it in my G3 curing machine. So it is nice and runny and it's ready to go. And I've got my frog on the tray, so I'm going to pour that now and hope that I have enough to fill this frog. Make sure I tip it slightly so that it goes into the head. And it looks like I'm going to have more than enough. So I'll just fill in the little toes. I have got a little bit of foil floating up near the arm, but it looks pretty good. Most of it looks like it's stayed where it needs to be. So it's going to be all fingers crossed once I get these little toes filled up. I'm going to leave this to degas for about 25 minutes, half an hour, and then I'll put the machine on and cure this frog. So I'm really looking forward to demolding this and find out whether it's worked. Just make sure I get any bubbles out from underneath the hips and the chin. And as I say, I'm going to leave this alone now for about half an hour. I'll pop the machine on and I'll be back once this is ready to demold. Okay, this is all set now, and I do have a couple of little bubbles that floated up to the surface, so obviously there was an air pocket somewhere, probably amongst all that foil. But I'm going to try and get this out of the mould, and then we can see whether this is worked. It's still a little soft in the toes, but it's been out of the curing machine for about an hour, so it is cooled down. I can feel it's a little bit soft under my fingers on the other side, so I'm hoping that means that the plastic is still there. Okay, well, I can see quite a lot of plastic, so that does mean that the resin didn't get under there. So now I just need to pick this out and remove it. Just try and ease that out. I don't mind if some of the plastic sticks, but if I can get the most of it out, and it looks like I probably will, then so much the better. And it is in there pretty good, I have to say. I'm going to try and be really careful. I don't want to break anything. I'm just going to snip some away with my scissors. There's a thin bit of resin just there that's holding it in place. All right, we're getting there. Aha. Okay, so I need to do a little bit of cleanup and pick some of the loose bits of plastic away, but that is looking pretty good. There's a good chunk of resin there that had seeped under, but that is not bad. Got a nice patch of clear resin there, but I'm not hating the way it looks. That's all right. So I'm going to carry on picking out all the bits of plastic that are stuck to the sides, and I won't bore you with that. I will be back once I've got it as clean as I possibly can, and I'll show you what it looks like. And here it is, and that is a really deep chasm. I'm so happy that worked. So now I'm going to show you what I'm going to put in it. So I want to make some mushrooms, and this bit is inspired by Shalina from Resin Art. She made mushrooms using glow-in-the-dark and UV resin, and she used blue tack to create a mould. Now, she had to pick the blue tack out afterwards, so I'm using this stuff, and this is heat re-mouldable clay. If you've seen some of my videos, I've used it quite a lot. I've placed a small bit into the bottom of a metal tray, and I've got this ball embossing stylus, and I'm going to heat this tiny blob up. So I've already tried this and I know that it works. I know it works fine for resin, so I figured it would definitely work for this and I wouldn't have to pick any of the bits out of my shape afterwards. Okay, so that's nice and soft now. I'm going to form the cap over the ball. I'll just wrap the clay all the way around and get the shape that I want. And I don't need to worry about this getting stuck The clay will remain flexible once it's cooled down, so you can just remove it, and you can always heat it up again and make it soft, remove it that way. Now I'm going to take a craft knife and I'm going to mark some lines for the gills. And this is already hardening, so I'm going to reheat it, make it soft, and carry on adding the lines for the gills. Okay, I'm going to let this completely cool down and harden, and then I can make my mushrooms. Okay, this is all cooled down now, and you can see that I've put lines all the way around it. And now I'm ready to dip this into some UV resin. And I've mixed a little bit of glow powder in with that. It's from Marblers, and this is called Glow Cream. It was just one of 5 colours that were in a sample set that I got from Amazon, and I will link that in the description box below. I'm also going to use my UV torch, and I'm going to set this as I go. So I'll dip this in. I don't want to dip it too deep. I need to keep the resin on that mould, not anywhere on the metal. I'm going to let some of that drip off, and then I'm just going to keep turning this around as I angle the torch away from my pot, but shine it on the mould. This will set up pretty quickly, so I just need to set it enough to stop it moving around. I'm going to even that bottom edge out by painting the resin on with my silicone brush. I'm going to keep turning it so that the resin has a chance to flow all the way around, and then just try and knock off any drips or gently scrape them off on the edge. Turn it again as I am curing it. I'm going to dip it into the resin again, and I'm going to keep it hanging down so that the resin forms a point, and that way you get a nice shape to the cap. And I'll just keep re-dipping this until I'm happy with the coating. I'm still only using the torch to part cure it. Alright, I think that has more than enough layers on it now, so I need to take it off. I'm just grabbing part of the mould, there's a little bit here, and this is why you don't want to cover all of that up with the resin. So I'm holding on to that, and then I'm just squeezing and twisting the resin, and it should pop off. There you go. You can see I've got the texture of the gills underneath, and I've got a nice hollow little cap. I have made quite a few of these, and I'm going to pop them all under my lamp at the same time, so I didn't make just this one. I put little caps onto anything I could, anything that had a rounded edge, different sizes, different shapes. So these will all be reusable, or I can just melt them and make them again. So I'm going to cure all these together now, and then I need to make stalks. So I'm going to start with a little bit of fishing wire or monofilament line, and I'm just dipping that into the resin and getting it coated. I could do with a slightly bigger pot for this, but I'll manage. It is the same resin as I used for the cap, and I'm just going to start to cure this as it's on the line. Now some of it will drip down to the bottom, that'll be the base of it. I'm going to need some that I only dip once that are very thin and just have the coating on them, and others I'm going to want to layer up several times and make slightly larger. It will all depend on the size of the cap that I want to attach them to. So I'm going to make a whole bunch of these, and then I'll show you how I join them onto the caps. Okay, I have made a bunch of different size stalks. So now I'm going to attach it to the cap. I've just put that in a cabochon mould, and it's upside down. So now I just want to snip off the uncovered bit of fishing line, the bit that I was holding. And I'm going to use my silicone brush to put a couple of drops of the same UV resin that I've been using, the glow in the dark one. I'll put a few drops into the bottom of the cap. Get that out of the way. And now I can hold this in place and cure it with my torch. So I'm going to cut a little bit of this out. You don't need to see me holding the torch there for that length of time. I'm going to make sure that I get all of that resin inside cured, and I have a really cute little mushroom. I'm going to carry on and do all of the others, and then I can start to put my frog together. Well, I've made 7 mushrooms altogether, and I've also added a few drops of UV resin onto the end of a bit of fishing wire, so just made some pips, I suppose you'd call them. Now I want to take what's left of that UV resin and I'm going to put that into the bottom of the chasm. And then I'm going to put some turquoise rocks on top and also some silver glass chips. So some of this is going to get covered up, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see some of that glow in the dark through the rocks. Okay, I have got all the glass and the rocks in place, and now I'm going to put this underneath my UV lamp and cure that for 5 minutes. Alright, now I have my rocks in place and the crystals, or glass chips. They weren't crystals, but they are super sparkly. And now I can put my mushrooms in place. So I need my torch, I need some more glow-in-the-dark UV resin, and I'm going to dip the bottom of the stalk in the resin, get a good blob on there, and then I'll hold it in place where I want it to be and cure it with the torch. So yet again I am going to fast forward this because it took quite a while, and I'll pop some music on for you. This is part of Froggy Friday, which is a weekly collaboration hosted by Lisa, Karen, Loula, Gert and Tim, and you can check out their channels. You'll also find a link to the playlist listed in the description box below the video, so go check out what everyone else has contributed. I've got everything put together, and at the last minute I decided he did need some silver eyes. It certainly would have been easier to have done this before I put all of those mushrooms on there, but never mind. I am using a metallic UV nail gel, and I'm just painting it on with a brush. And I have to admit, it is not easy for me to see what I'm doing while I've got this under the camera. So I did actually wipe this bit off and redo it, but I am just painting in the eyes, and then I will cure it underneath the lamp. Okay, that is this one done, and I am calling this the chasm frog. I do wish I had staggered the heights a little bit more of those mushrooms, but I really love this. I love the sparkle that I added from those glass chips. They are really, really sparkly. I don't know whether the camera's actually doing that justice. And I'm also glad that I put those turquoise rocks down the bottom so that it has just broken up that kind of monotone effect. But this really is meant to be seen in glow in the dark, so I will try and get some photos of that for you. In the meantime, if you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share and subscribe if you haven't. I'll pop the QR code on the screen, scan that with your phone and you will be able to subscribe to my channel at no cost to you and really help me to bring you more content. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.